to the Storage Syndicate Spotlight. It is Wednesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. I am Thaddeus Campbell, joined by Murph. Decided to be matching hat guys today. Unfortunately, we didn't send that message to our guest tonight. That's because Terry's got good hair, Murph. We're kind of like, we got our hats on because we can't mess with the hair Terry Anderson has. I want to introduce Terry real quick. Really invited him on because of his involvement in Toy Storage Nation, which Steve and I have been lucky enough to get exposed to, a mastermind educational group specifically for boat and RV storage. Terry's got 40 years of leadership experience, been in the self-storage industry in one capacity or another for many, many moons. So really excited. Boat and RV is kind of in a very interesting place for us. We don't know it quite as well as we know self-storage, so always excited to have somebody on where we can pick their brain and get a little bit, learn a little bit more than we already know. So Terry, first and foremost, thank you for coming on and joining us. I also love the little maneuver there, getting rid of that light over your shoulder.
I saw that light. Didn't want to
kind of looked angelic there with the light shining through your hair. It was a little...
Well, the plan was to show the sheen. I wanted to show the sheen.
You got it going on, so we appreciate it.
Terry, I appreciate you coming on, man. And you're wearing quite a few hats in the industry too.
Yeah.
But kind of like before we could dive into all the specifics of that, I'd like to kind of give the audience a little bit of understanding your background, where you came from. You have a pretty good story, which brought you to where you are now. So
you bet.
You can shed a little light on that and where you came from and what set you on this path.
Well, I grew up a poor preacher's kid. We are a small town, 2,800 dogs, cats, and stoplights. We go to the big town next to us, and we go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and ask to lick everybody else's fingers. But anyway, we're a poor group, But I'm a PK. I actually one of the just great heritage I came from, really did, and had a background for a while in ministry, nonprofits. Got into the industry, the insurance industry, basically through MetLife. I was kind of bivocational for a while there, and I loved it. I loved the insurance industry at that point in time. But made a move out to Phoenix, had an opportunity to come out here for a job, and wound up. I remarried about 12 years ago, and the family business basically had an element of self-storage for almost 40 years. They started out in the Yellow Page business, believe it or not. And anybody have Yellow Pages still? And they went into digital marketing. And then after that, 2009 started the protection program. And that's my involvement was in 2016. And we really loved it, really did.
That's awesome. So insurance and such a piece of the self-storage puzzle that people don't really talk about, but it's a moneymaker for self-storage for sure.
Oh, yeah. We have some great competitors. In fact, I just saw Jessica. Hi, Jessica. She's a great gal. Great team of people out there, great people in the industry that are protecting their tenants. We do offer the tenant property protection plan for owners to sell to their tenants. And unique situation is that we are able to do that where they don't have to be licensed. We have a great backing through Chubb, which is basically a AAA rated. We also have now created a product for the RV and boat storage, a protection program for that. And the owner can sell that just like at Best Buy, they could sell it on appliance coverage or, some of these other Verizon for the phone. But we created basically a process that allows an extra stream of income. Generally, it's the second highest income for an owner. And we really try to help them to create that, basically that high level of sales penetration with the protection plan. And that residual income adds another level of value, of course, to the valuation of the whole project there of a self-storage facility or an RV and boat storage. And we've gotten backed into also some general property and casualty, also business owners, insurance. And, one of the things that we love to say is that if it's valuable enough to keep, it's valuable enough to protect. So.
Awesome. I love this, right? We always ask, we start off with kind of how people got here into this real estate space. Yeah. And your story's kind of funny. You married into it, right?
I did. My father. Well, at first, my wife said that there's no way in hell that she would allow me to do it until pigs could fly. And I've been seeing some flying pigs for the last 6 years. So my father-in-law basically told me, he said, son, you need to come work for the family business. And, I started doing, sales and marketing a long time ago. And I brought that element to it. And then in 2019, we went through some changes and shifts, and he asked me to take the leadership. And we've grown about 250%, over the last 3.5 years. And had some tremendous opportunities that come our way, even during COVID, with all the things that were happening. We made some transitions that have paid off for us, and so in fact, we're in our own process now of building our first RV and boat storage facility ourselves up in Prescott, Arizona.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, how important it is. Obviously, COVID was like, it's so hard to make moves in an era of chaos. And at the beginning of COVID, like there was no rules, nobody knew whatever.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the importance of kind of mental flexibility in moments like that.
Well, one of the beautiful things about it is as we became a viable business that had to be, we were allowed to stay in business. Of course, a lot of our owners and operators had to make the shift to be touchless or contactless. And during that time, we saw a real opportunity too, as people were saying, you know what, I'm not being trapped in my home. I'm going to get out. And we saw just this boom happening in the RV and boat industry. And about that
100%.
time, met up with some guys that really had a real heart, real interest. Bob Hayworth, I know there was Amy Bix, some different people that were involved in RV and boat storage. And we created a platform basically in 2021 to take advantage of this growth. And during that time, we also created a product, that became the first product in the industry that was geared toward RV and boat storage. And in July 2021, we kicked off ToyStorageNation.com. And I'm happy to be just right in the middle of that. I'm the chairman of the board and been basically part of that leadership since then. And again, it's a tremendous opportunity with the growth that's happening out there. I could throw stats at you all day, but the biggest stat that really kind of astounded me was 38% of those that were millennials were jumping into RV and boat storage and younger. Wow. And it wasn't just a, old man's game like me. It wasn't just a bunch of boomers. Now you're seeing that younger generation just take off, and they love. My son, who's 35, fits right in that group. He and his family jump in, go camping. They've got access to a camper, and he's just had his first experience with an RV, and he loves it.
It's interesting you said that on 2 points. Number one, I know multiple people that are in that 25 to 40-year-old age bracket that are living that life. They're in a camper, and that's what they do. They go from place to place, and they'll park their camper somewhere, and they'll stay there for a few weeks. But they got Wi-Fi in their camper. They got all the things they need, and they work. Especially nowadays, where so many jobs you can work off of a laptop. Exactly. Really interesting to see that dynamic.
Over 1.2 million live in the RVs on a full-time basis. Wow. 1.2 million, households. Wow. Yeah,
that's incredible. The other thing you said that I thought was interesting, the SSA just put out a stat last month that 16% of Gen Z and millennials are renting self-storage. That number is even higher for boat and RV, which really kind of leads to the next question I want to ask you. When we're going to look at self-storage, we kind of really know what we got to find to identify a strong market. Little less clear in the boat and RV industry, kind of maybe where storage was a while ago. Tell me a little bit about Toy Storage Nation and how you're kind of helping people educate about, hey, where do we want to put one of these up and what's going to be the key to make it successful?
Yeah. Our focus has really been on the executive Class A level RV and boat storage. So we don't want, the dirt lots, the wire blade chain link. We really want to get into some quality out there, the junkyard dog, all that kind of stuff. We've really kind of
no Dobermans running patrol.
That's right. In California, they love it. Just joking. Anyway, the thing is that we have learned there's over 12 million RV owners, over 25 million boat owners, and that that is amazing stat in and of itself, and it's growing at a rate that may add another 9 million total in the next 5 years. And so destination is kind of the big picture, in areas of destination. It doesn't have to be in the metro, but from the metro toward a destination. We found that huge.
Right.
Secondly, generally we encourage you to get 12 to 15 acres. Generally 15 is kind of the hot spot. People say, wow, that's a lot of land. Yeah, those things aren't small.
Yeah.
And when you put the canopies and things up, and we have some that are enclosed, and we actually have a luxury garage level now of RV and boat storage. That's a whole nother class. But the destination location and then the acreage is very important. And then is it C2? In other words, light industrial. That's a hot thing right now. We found that when you go into zoning areas that are already committed to residential or they're heavy duty industrial, generally it doesn't fly as well as the light industrial. The location we have is by an airport. That land is perfect. We actually bought a group of acreage there. We have about 27 acres in a thoroughfare between 4 growing cities, Prescott Valley, Chino Valley, as well as Dewey Humboldt. And its destinations going east and west and north and south. So you kind of look at it that way. A fourth thing that is really critical, when you look in that 5-mile radius, you're looking for about a $70,000 plus type of median income. That's family incomes. Some people say average, some median is really kind of the better way to look at it. And last but not least, we're seeing a stat about 1 in 12 or 1 in 13 people will have an RV and boat in that 5-mile radius. But keep in mind, these locations are reaching people 50 miles away, because if it's on the way to the destination, they'll park it, go to the destination, come back, drop off, and go home. And so very, very unique situation. And one other aspect of this that we always talk about in helping people to understand how to plan for this is that, we like to see it asphalt, concrete, very nice fence gated, it's electronic using the latest technology, and solar is playing a big part in this. And so if your state or area has a solar or electrical need, right now, California is a hot spot. It really is. And some of these states that have solar, I think Georgia, there's some other eastern states, and Washington, I've heard of a few. We've got a location, one of our owners, and he's also, they're a builder of a RV location. They have now worked with PG&E, and their RV and boat storage location is a power grid. And basically they're paying them like they're a power company. And they ended up getting like $1.2 million in collateral. And this thing is throwing off $350,000, $400,000 a year. And it's pretty awesome.
They're not having to rely on your insurance.
Well,
the biggest income stream.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Yeah, people like to see the protection plan is gravy. I'm from the South, so gravy, on everything.
On it, we'll take it. I'm going to tell you, Steve and I were out in Vegas in April at the ISS show. I was all set to come to Toy Storage Nation that Friday. I had a family emergency. I had to fly out Thursday morning. So now you're making me even more sad that I missed that Friday, because we're 15 minutes into the interview. We're already dropping nuggets. So I hope the people that are watching got a notebook and write stuff down, because, I was kind of said over
4 times a year.
6, 8. I'll get there. Don't worry. Always kind of said, boat and RV is kind of like 10 years, maybe 15 years behind the maturity of self-storage. And that opens up so much opportunity to people that, not that self-storage is over, you can still build a new self-storage facility and do exceedingly well. It's still such a great asset class, but definitely a lot more mature. And some of those rates of return you were seeing, 15, 20 years ago, we work with Barry Sherman, who's been in the industry since the 80s. Man, they were getting 40% internal rate of return. You were getting your money back in 2.5 years.
Oh, yeah.
We're not seeing that craziness right now so much. But boat and RV's kind of in that place where it's like you're getting in early ahead of the curve.
Well, the construction cost. generally can be about half to 2/3 of what you have going in a fully enclosed self-storage facility. Of course, depending on the part of the country, again, a disclaimer there. But the other aspect of this is that we're seeing the rates climb because of a couple of reasons. Number one, over half of the people that are boat and RV owners, they may have access to their HOA that would allow them or their own private land, but actually over half of the HOAs now are pushing RV and boats out. So I think the last stat I saw was like 54% of HOAs are pushing RV and boat storage out. And then the cities do not like them along the streets. You're seeing semis even being taken and pushed out. And then, so we even have some RV and boat storage that's turned over a portion of their land to commercial trucks. But the point I'm making on all this is that even if you look at just RVs, I'm not even looking at the boat side. Let's say you take away half of that 12 million, you got 6 million left, okay, out of that number. And if you were to take all of the dedicated RVs and Class A, whatever, and you would take also facilities that have a little bit of parking, usually 30 to 50 spaces, you still probably wouldn't have 1 million spaces that are built right now for that 6 million demand. It's amazing.
You're literally 6x in demand over supply right now, and that's counting gravel and barbed wire and Doberman places.
All kinds. And then marinas are packed out right now. We're finding that we've got a group out east now that are building and buying marinas. They just put together a $300 million fund for that. We got another member in Rec Nation that's put together a $500 million. They're looking for acquisitions in some respect, but development is going to be a big key over the next 5 to 7 years. I really believe that.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. It gets me excited. I mean, I love storage, obviously, and we enjoy this, or we wouldn't come on here every week and talk about it. But,
yeah, that's all right. Thaddeus, I go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, this just is so exciting because kind of, Wild West may be the wrong analogy, but it's like, you're pioneering into excited about, when you have that opportunity in front of you. Of course, there's risk. There's always risk involved.
Making investments and you're doing developments, but 6 million people based on 12 million don't have a place to park them at their house. Take right there.
Yeah. Well, Thaddeus, in self-storage, the secure facilities, I know that a lot of them say, the 4 Ds, death, declutter, divorce, and departure. Well, RV and boat storage, I added a 5th D. I call it delightful. It's delightful, man, because the people that come in with these toys, they treat them like assets as their baby. And a lot of these folks, they don't like to default because they don't want you to take their baby over. And so it's kind of finding this great audience. Really are.
I was going to ask that, right? Self-storage facilities, the storage war is people defaulting and leaving all their junk. These, you're talking about 6-figure per way you get $1 million RVs. By default is gotta be much lower.
Oh yeah, and the boats are not far behind. When you see $250,000 boats and up, it blows your mind. It really does. And so I'm always amazed in this industry at especially now in this day and time at that additional income. Even though we're in economic tough times, people put value in their second home or their second place. Starbucks has a theory that they want to be the third place, but that RV and boat, boy, that's a special place for a lot of people that they like to make memories with. And some of these younger families are catching on to that big time.
Yeah. To think that this industry is growing. People always talk about millennials. What they don't talk about is that turn out and just be all over the place.
Yeah, yeah. Well, some people are moving toward that virtual concept where they like to take their job and their work with them and their play with them, to wherever they want to go in these special destinations. And, we have a beautiful country. We really do. We're very blessed with all the beauty that's in the United States. I met one family that they had a map on the wall and they were just checking off all the stops, in the United States. And
That's all.
families like to give that history, of that. So I'm always amazed about, as a country, some people are saying, well, the gas price is going to cut this all out. Well, we always find a way to do the things that we prioritize. And if we prioritize family time, it's interesting how we find the money, in this day and time. So RV and boat is really a great refuge for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Point, right? That money's never an object to the things you really.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much opportunity, in the next 5 to 7 years. In fact, there was a backup, for quite a few years, the last couple of years, in the number of sales that were taking place. I got friends that are reselling items that they have, RVs and boats, 5, 10, 15 years old. They're getting the price they got for it when they purchased it. It just blows me away, the market there. So then you got RV share. You got all these share, like VRBO for RVs. So it's kind of created its own industry. In fact, we have a listing, that's just for campgrounds and RVs and all these apps that are coming up with that. It's pretty amazing.
Article the other day where sales of RVs this year have all 13%.
Yeah.
But what it failed, they doubled in 2021. You held steady. So, okay, you had a small decline. You were in 2020. You're still a tragedy. The sales to the storage side of it. And so you have really.
Yeah. Well, I call it the rubber band effect. In times of feast, we take in all we can. But when we come back in the famine time, we don't go back to the original size. There's still some space, some growth that's there. And part of the process is we're living in a day and time where, the real estate values, a lot of people are very concerned about that. And what's happening is we're seeing a decline in some of this real estate because, in commercial, they're not going as strong in office buildings and commercial buildings like they used to be. And self-storage can step right in there. But the same thing is happening on the side of the land. The land that was sold for so much is now coming down. And we're seeing the RV and boat storage industry position itself to acquire more land. And it's interesting, there's a list called IOS list. And that's the industrial outdoor storage. And there's a huge commercial movement that's going on. Some of these trucks, they're bringing off the road because the supply chain is going through a reduction, but they got to park them somewhere because that's an asset they don't want to lose. So we're seeing anything with wheels right now having pretty much an upside to it. I think the next 5 to 7 years is the time to really hit it,
Interested to know if we know in self-storage that we have a price per square that we can kind of typically pencil into, dependent on rates from market to market, general price you're trying to pay for land.
Yeah, yeah, we got spoiled. We got down as low as about $2.80 a square foot, which is kind of crazy. But a lot of people are paying upwards of $5 a square foot in some of these areas, outlying areas especially. I've seen as high as $7. But it depends again on those factors I mentioned about destination. If you're on the way to destination, the commercial, that's light industrial. And I think it also plays well to understand if you're out on the periphery, of these type of cities, the land's a little less than it would be in the central part of the city.
That's awesome information. I appreciate it. It gives me kind of a when we're talking to sellers of land.
Yeah.
The next, any idea, like when we're underwrite again, when we underwrite self-storage, we can look at a market facilities or renting certain unit. What are we looking at to rent a facility, especially if it's covered or an interior?
Yeah, yeah, we've been going through this. It's kind of interesting because there's some owners out there that play the discount game, and it kind of messes it up for everybody else.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you that. We're learning that. But when you look at the steady,
We won't mention any names. Someone that's got orange in their color scheme that likes it too.
yeah, yeah, and when you've got the 100% capacity, why would you go for a discount giveaway anyway? I don't understand the concept.
You literally you do it just to stop in that area, and it's too bad, but gotta do it. Have an amazing business, and they make. I guess I can't be too upset.
Well, I met an owner and he says that he tries to raise his rent, every time somebody moves out, he raises it when someone else comes in. So he has a little different scale going on, but he doesn't want to be 100%. He said if I got 100%, about 2 to 3% of those people are the worst, people to deal with when you try to raise your lease or do any changes.
Yeah.
And we're seeing, yeah, yeah, we're seeing lease up so fast on these RV and storage facilities too. I mean, I've seen some go in 90 days at 100% capacity from the day they open. That's crazy. And then we've seen some it takes about 18 months to, almost 2 years to get, 100%, or get full.
Would still be something you'd be pretty excited about. I mean, if your project of, 10, 15, 20 acres, that's a pretty nice deal.
Yeah, yeah. And you were talking about the price in California. We saw someone that was getting $1,800 for a space. I believe the space was, I believe it was, they had a 16 by 40 or 15 by 40, what it was. Blew me away. Or I think it may have been a little bit more than 40, but I that's astounding to me. Some people are getting around 80 to a dollar, 80 cents to a dollar a square foot, for RV and boat storage. But we have seen it trend higher, as high as, anywhere from $1.20, $1.50 a square foot, which is almost catching up equal with, the secure door, regular storage. So it depends on
We
market.
know if we can get a dollar.
Florida and Texas, they're starting to really build out a lot more. We saw those rates kind of high in the beginning. I think they're coming down. California, though, has been the one that's kind of been the surprise to us all, and partly because I think the density populations and the people that are moving in and out, and destination type people that like going in and out of California still. That's kind of what's, I think, keeping their rates a little bit higher too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you think the rates changing when you get close to these, like you're kind of have a collaboration of boat and RV versus the Midwest where it might just be heavier?
You mean a differentiation between the boat storage versus RV storage?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, as I'm looking around, we're looking in the Midwest, and we might see, we're not gonna have any boats out there. No lakes, there's no ocean, so it's gonna be RV heavy. Versus if you go to Florida or California, coastal, and even in Jersey, I see some high rates. And I'm wondering if it's due to the fact that you have kind of both.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I was talking to a guy that's at a marina down on the coast, and he was telling me about there was nothing that he could put his boats in. He has a fishing business, basically, and they were charging some tremendous rates for the boats there. And this, the combination boat and RV, you generally don't see a lot of dollars in those rates, but it's very specific to an area. It's a higher rate for the boats in the marina area, of course. RVs are more. We're seeing like I know in Tennessee, there's out there resorts and campgrounds, and the most amazing thing is they may pay and have 9 months that they can pay. There's 3 months they lose, you know, that we don't like losing. So they're starting to build, storage facilities there. Well, because they're getting so much money off the lake there for storage of or for someone to camp there for those months, they're not ashamed of charging at least, a half, 2/3 of that when they go into storage, which is a pretty high rate. I think some of those slips are as much as $2,000 a month for the lakefront, and then for getting about 800 to 1,000 somehow some enclosed type storage that they have off the lake.
Yeah, that's not a bad part. At 800 to 1,000 when your competitor in this position to be in.
Yeah, Thad, I think you're getting some feedback.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on over here, Steve. I apologize.
Yeah, I think it was on the microphone, I think.
She's still hearing it.
It's a little bit of feedback still, but I hear Steve clear. Sometimes we hear Mike. Hey, I will add one other thing that you guys. Yeah, this luxury garage section. We have a group out of Lake Havasu, Lexel, and they've built these things out and are filling them up. Some of the largest tenants are car collectors. They'll stack cars in there, and they also have a lot of. I was very surprised about the commercial, high-end commercial. I believe there's a location up there that has a gentleman that's storing marble in 2 very large units he's purchased, and it's because they were stealing them, bringing in a magnetic truck and leaving it off of his property. So he found this our luxury garage that's enclosed, very nice. These people, we've seen them pay anywhere from about 175 a square foot all the way up to $350 a square foot to own that space. And so some of these, they're like man caves, dude. You walk in there, they've got a bar, on one side. They got a entertainment center on the one side, then a big, pool bench, on one side, and some of them have mezzanines up above that they lounge above, and they love to get in there with buddies and they brag and they look at each other's toys, and it's like a community in there. It just blows me away. It's a whole different upper level echelon of RV and boat storage that I never dreamed I'd be seeing. And we got a lot of it in Phoenix too. That's going on. And then I know there's a gentleman that's building some on the East Coast there, from Florida all the way up through North Carolina. There's opportunity there. But the demand, as long as it's there, and the opportunity, it's a great opportunity for someone who wants to get into it and develop it.
What's your plan with management? These larger facilities that you're putting together, especially as you're scaling and doing multiple. I mean, are there third-party managements out there?
We're starting to see some of that now. A good friend of mine, Greg Ellsworth, he's with, and you guys will be talking with him soon. He's getting into the management big time. He's been doing it for a number of years, even before it became popular and cool. We're seeing a few other organizations out there adding the moniker RV and boat storage management on their management company. But it takes some know-how and skill about how to work with these types of facilities, especially as you eyeball who comes in and out, and you are also always concerned about the inexperienced drivers. You want to protect your walls, your gates, your keypads, and so that's why everybody should have a protection plan, by the way, just so you know. Take care. It's out-of-pocket expenses for you, so you don't have to. I just had to put that plug in there. I knew Thaddeus appreciate that.
Well done.
It's a great point, man. There's nothing worse than, and wondering how you're going to deal with the cost.
Yeah. Well, and aside from that, the other situation that we have to watch for, 2 things. One is burglary of contents. People have TVs in these things. They have, some other equipment, propane tanks, tires, generators. So we have that in our protection program to cover that. And the catalytic converter world, We had an owner before they came on our program in California who had 36 all those things stolen in a less than a 2-hour period off this location. He lost every one of those people too from being tenants. It was a killer. They stole all those catalytic converters, and so we hope states are adding the laws to really help us with that. But the last danger that you have to kind of watch out for is lithium batteries. We've seen some fires that have taken place in California and some other locations because poorly or improperly stored lithium batteries. And so some of these things you need to include in your lease. You have a limit where you are responsible up to that protection plan limit, and then above that, they need to have their vehicle insurance in place. You need to actually be an insured interest on their policy if you can. Otherwise, I always encourage people to collect policies and encourage people not to get rid of their comprehensive collision, but to up their deductible. We're seeing people who are totally dropping their vehicle insurance and only keeping liability. And when something happens, they lose it. They have nothing that covers that asset anymore. So owners are put in a very liable situation. And when you got litigious people out there, that are looking for opportunity, that's where they look. And so one of the people in the industry, Jeff Greenberger, you may have heard of him, an attorney. He's been really big at Toy Storage Nation, sharing some of the awful things that could happen. He makes me kind of, squeeze my seat a little bit when he talks about insurance. But love the guy every once in a while. but it's like lawyers. I can tell you right now, but I don't want to go too far on the show on that. So
That's great.
But make that lease. Really have that lease looked at. I know some of the state associations give you a lease, but sometimes they leave out certain things. And when you have a $500,000 rig driving on your place, and you're liable for that rig, and guess what? It has combustible materials inside of it. How are you going to mitigate your risk there? You got to make sure that certain things happen. When they come on, they need to declare, hey, I'm going to care for these types of things. You're not responsible after this amount, of your protection program. Our insurances are in place. You have a copy. If we have a declaration page that has expiration date, the expiration date will re-up it. I mean, there's some things that you have to consider there. We even created an app for inventory and storage. We call it Bird's Eye Protection, and it's our app that we use to take pictures front, side, and back, so you have a baseline. I had people in the industry made fun of me about putting together an inventory act. They said, well, once you inventory something, you're taking command and control. No, I don't have the keys, but I've gotten permission from that tenant to have a picture, and that's not command and control. We have people give you permission to take photographs. That doesn't mean you command and control their bills or their livelihood or anything like that.
Right.
So we've done some things to kind of implement some new changes that really help you from the management of that site. And we're seeing some software that's coming out developing more aspects that really point toward how to handle the RV and boat and the storage spaces. But I know a lot of people love the remote management. But I think you have to have some kind of boots on the ground with these type of big, expensive type models coming in and out. People don't bring in junk. They don't bring in situations that could be very dangerous. You've got to be careful.
Man, want to thank you so much. Time and respect our viewers' time. We call this a 7:45 when we can, but would love to have you come. Your information was a guy that is made for sales because you're not hard to listen to. Thank you so much for sharing all.
Well, I'm gonna see you guys at Las Vegas. I'm coming. Yes, I'm joining in the syndicate. We're gonna rock the place.
Yes, sir.
And have some fun, learn some things, share some things, and then Toy Storage Nation. Our next event's in Reno, Nevada. That's going to be September the 29th. You can go to toystoragenation.com. And if you send me a note from the show, I'll get you a good discount to get in the show there. At least 75, but I like to give a little bigger board discount. We can give you about 250. So it's worthwhile. That's a full day of education, and you meet the best experts in the industry that day. And just love what you guys are doing, though, from a real mastermind group of people. Really think that you got a great model. I think the world of Joe, even though Steve does a few things kind of rough about it, I still love the guy. And
oh, that's awesome. We're off next week for the storage. So a couple detail the viewers. Weeks Joe will be back. I think that's August 23rd. Martin May, who's a young coming down into the U.S. market. Investing in boat and RV with Martin May today, Terry. I'm sure he'll certainly be watching the replay of this because he's been the week after that, August 30th, really joining us. Austin is one of the young, massive sales and excited to pick his brain on not only this, talking about masterminds, his mindset. If he's 30, I'm going to be shocked having massive talk to him. The week after that, crazy enough, in Vegas, and Steve and I will be going live. We're going to go live from the show floor again. And if we happen to run on the show, pick your brain a little bit live. All you guys joining us and look forward to. Thanks so much for coming on.
You bet. Anything I can do for you guys, reach out to me. T. Anderson at Tenant Property Protection. If you got other notes and things about how to reach me, just let me know. And again, we help you from feasibility funding to the final product when it comes to RV and boat storage at Toy Storage Nation. And we try to be that voice for the industry. But even more so, we just love self-storage in general and love what you guys are doing. And just definitely want to be a part of that network that helps each other to do something that's great asset class. You bet.
Awesome.
Love it.
Always.
Hey, everybody.
You got it, man. Looking forward to it. Drinks on Steve.
I got you.
All righty, guys. Thanks a bunch.
Later.